record this. I do share these. My 16s and 15s, they do like watching the recording.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
you see who's there. There's Dell. What up, Dell? There's two of you now, but
Hello, can you hear me now?
yeah, what's going on, man?
Ah,
Why don't you say
there
what's
we
up
go.
to Coach, man?
All right,
What's
coach.
How's
What's up, Dell? It's good to meet you, man.
your
It's nice to meet
night
you too.
going?
It's going pretty well.
Yeah,
How's
you
your
got
night going tonight?
my night's going all right. My daughter just turned 11. She just got a game canceled because we got thunderstorms all over Bucks County. So,
Thunderstorms?
yeah, the weather's been pretty nasty, but coming this way yeah.
That's
But I'm having a good summer. My son is 8. This is the first NBA finals that he's like over the moon excited for, and he's
what's up.
absolutely crushed that, Halliburton tweaked his calf and it's looking rough for the Pacers right now.
He's a
But
Pacers fan?
I don't know, I think he just got into this team like this year. And you know what else he did is he watched I don't know if you've seen the special on like Reggie Miller and Spike Lee, that whole thing,
Yeah.
but he watched that a couple weeks ago. Once he watched that, he was like, I'm all in for the Pacers. Even though he doesn't know, he knows like two guys on their team, maybe three. Um, Siakam and McConnell probably.
Yeah.
But you guys think the Pacers got a chance
I don't think so, if we're
to
being
wrap?
honest. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's over.
I don't see that happening. Yeah, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough for them, especially with Hallie a little hobbled.
Yeah. I don't even think he's playing in game six.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
really? Yeah, at least that's what my little brother told me, so it's kind of iffy, but I don't think he's playing in game six.
Well, Zachy said that he said I told him I think the Thunder are gonna win it. It's not looking good for the Pacers, and you guys know Zachy. He's four
Yeah.
wise. He said, but Daddy, the Pacers are a magical team. So I don't know. I said we'll see if they have any magic left. They gotta pull it out here.
Nah, I think the Pacers are done. I for sure think the Pacers are done. I don't think there's a way they come back.
A lot of people thought the Thunder were in big trouble after game three. They were down
Yeah.
2-1.
Yeah.
But well, they were in deep trouble in game four.
Yeah. You're not wrong about that.
Let's see if anybody else coming in here. They might trail. A couple more trickle in. But and if you guys want to show your faces, that'd be great. Noah, Key, Conrad. Who's Jimmy?
Yeah, I will. I will. I just got home. Give me a sec.
All right, Noah. Well, yeah, I mean, yes, briefly, and we'll keep it pretty open for him. I don't think, coach just wants to see and talk to some guys that I'm sure some guys have some questions on recruiting process and like, how you think about it, but just on coach, Lafayette alum, correct? Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And then coach,
Proud,
and then
proud
was on,
leopard.
yeah, and then and then you were what, Division 1 assistant slash associate head coach for, I want to say, what, 8 years?
Yeah, I was at Lafayette, my alma mater, for 8 years. Right up until 2017 is when I left. That's when I took the Haverford job then. I'm coming up on I just finished year 8, coming up on year 9 at Haverford, but I've got experience coaching in academic D3, coaching obviously in Lafayette in the Patriot League. Um, been doing it for, close to 25 years now. So, um, yeah, my hope is that I can be helpful for you guys and answer questions that you have about really anything and everything recruiting. I know this is a huge stretch you guys are going into, playing with your high school teams this month and then getting back with Zach and the boys in July. But yeah, most of my experience is at pretty highly selective, um, liberal arts colleges, at the Division I level in the Patriot League, and then I coached at Williams College back in the day, all the way up in Massachusetts, and I've been at Haverford outside of Philly for, like I said, just about 9 years now. Um,
Yeah.
but it would be helpful for me. I mean, I know a couple of you guys are on screen, but if you guys could, if we could just go around and you guys could tell me, like, introduce yourself, tell me, what class year you're in, what school you go to. That would be helpful. And I'll start with Dell since I'm staring right at him, and then you can pass it along to the next guy.
Hmm. Hi, my name is Delmit. I go to the Knox School. I'm in class of 2026, and I like to pass it over to Reese.
Hi, I'm Reese Carter. Class 2026. I go to the Dalton School.
Nice to meet you, Reese.
I'm Noah Khalid. Class 2026. I also go to the Dolan School of Reese.
It's like Noah got a fresh cut here. Oh man.
Looking good,
I'm ready
man.
for summer. Ready for summer.
It's high and tight. You're ready to go. Who's next?
My name is Aki Brown, also a class of 2026, and I go to the Berkeley Carroll School.
Nice.
My name's Conrad Stroop, and class 2026, and I go to Grand South High School.
Can you say that again, Conrad? What
Uh,
school?
Grand South High School. It's on Long Island. Yeah.
Gotcha. Some Long Island guys on the call. All right, Jimmy, how about you?
Oh, who is Jimmy? Who is Jimmy? There might be some parents on here too. That might be. So, Coach, I invited the 2026 guys. I
No
try to
problem.
keep it a little smaller. I know that it gives the younger guys something to look forward to when we do this in the future too.
Yeah, that's no problem at all. So, what I really want to do for you guys is keep this, pretty conversational, and I want you to get some value out of it because obviously you're taking some time to hop on a Zoom screen. I know you got to be excited for this summer. You're gonna try to ball out and get the attention of a lot of guys like me. Um, but what questions do you have going into the scholastic periods, these weekends coming up, the live stuff in July? Um, anything kind of like burning a hole in your head right now that you want to get us started with, or do you want to hear more about Haverford and our basketball program? If there's any general questions about recruiting, I'm happy to take those first.
If there's not, yeah, maybe you don't be afraid to speak up, Noah. Uh, if there's not, yeah, maybe you just tell us like, a little bit about the league and about the school and maybe kind of like what you're looking for as you go to these things because I think a lot of our guys are targeting schools like Haverford. So, knowing a little bit about the league and knowing a little bit about how you view how you approach this stretch of late June or mid first of July could be.
Yeah, so it might sound a little counterintuitive, but I'm very rarely am I going into a gym, just trying to like really, zero in on, one guy or two guys or a small handful of guys. Like I feel like my job, especially in the early part of the summer, May, June, even getting into the live periods in July, I'm just trying to find as many kids as possible who I know have an academic profile for Haverford that look like they would be good fits for our basketball program. And I'm literally like, if when you see me, in these gyms, I'm hustling from one court to the next, and it's really a simple like binary. Like, all right, I'm watching Reese right now. I watch him for a half. He looks like he can go. I know he's got good grades. All right, he's a yes, and then I'm moving on. I'm not like I'm not watching anyone's game, especially early in the summer to try to pick apart, like, all right, this kid can handle, but he can't pass, and he can shoot, but he can't dribble, this, that. It's not really that at all. It's just, all right, can he play at the level? Does he look like he's having some fun playing basketball, or does he look like he's only in the gym because his mom and dad been dragging him there since he was 8 years old? Like trying to figure stuff like that out. Um, and then what ends up happening is at the end of the summer, like I usually have a pretty long list of, in this summer it's going to be 2026s. And let's say by the time we get to August, I got a couple hundred kids, maybe not a couple hundred, let's say 100 to 150 kids that I've seen in the summertime, that I felt pretty good about, they could play at our level and in our program. Then I start doing all the kind of background stuff, and I'm talking to coaches like Coach Kuba and trying to connect with parents and things like that. Inviting kids to campus, who takes us up on an opportunity to come play in our camp in September. Um, and then it goes from a very big number in June, July to a very small number by September, October, because that's when we're hosting our prospect camp, and then also we like to do a lot of overnight visits, with our top guys at Haverford, guys who have reciprocated a lot of interest and seem like they would be good fits. If we get to that point in the fall, kind of the end stage of recruitments for us, for the ED kids, is the campus visit in September, October. Um, I like to have kids come and spend the night with our team because for a lot of different reasons, but honestly, the biggest reason is what I've found at Haverford is that we have a much stronger chance of yielding and actually retaining kids who come to campus, spend a night with the team, eat in the dining hall. Those kids know what they're getting into when they show up at Haverford as first year guys. Um, it's not to say we haven't had guys, 4 year guys who didn't take an overnight visit, but I've noticed the trend, especially in the past couple of years, like guys that kind of balked at the overnight visit. Sometimes those are the guys that are, you might not get to coach for 4 years. Um, so yeah, and like a lot of the academic D3s, I mean, we're trying to do a lot of our recruiting in the early decision rounds. Um, that's not my preference. I would much prefer to be recruiting into April, May every year. But because of how selective a school like Haverford is, and I'm pretty beholden to the deadlines, and I have much more support in the early decision rounds than I do in the regular decision rounds. Um, I guess before I keep going, do you guys have any questions about ED versus RD, early action? Do you guys, I mean, I know you guys are all at really good schools, so you probably got college counselors telling you all about this stuff. But do any of you have questions about early decision versus regular decision and what the difference is, things like that?
Yeah.
Can you go into a little more like detail about like early decision and regular decision?
Yeah, so early decision, Haverford and a lot of schools like Haverford offer an early decision deadline. That's essentially like it's an agreement you're making with the school that you're only going to apply to one. Um, I don't even know if ED is still going to be around in, 3, 4 years, but right now it's kind of the way a lot of very selective schools fill their classes on the front end. So if you're going to apply somewhere early decision, essentially what you're doing is you're telling that school and that coach and those admission folks, this is my top choice school. If you let me in, I'm coming. Um, and those deadlines for most schools are usually in November, early December. Um, Haverford has a first round of early decision in the middle of November, and then a second round of early decision in the first week of January. So this past year, so for the 2025s, we yielded, oh man, how many was it? Yeah, we yielded three of our guys in ED1. We yielded another recruit in ED2. And then we added two via the transfer process. So nobody in regular decision this year. Some years we get kids in the spring, but this year we got all of our incoming first year guys in the fall. They were all committed in November and December. Did that answer your question, Dell, about ED? So other schools, like if you're talking about schools like, MIT and Caltech and University of Chicago, some schools offer early action, which is essentially just like an earlier opportunity to apply, but it's not binding. So if you ever hear um, early action, you can apply early action to one school or two schools, but then you can apply to as many schools as you want. It's just an opportunity to get yourself into an applicant pool um, that admissions folks read earlier. But um,
So
but I
you,
think too, like our program, just like every program, like we've been thinking a little bit differently about recruiting over the past couple of years because of, all the COVID kids and the fifth year kids. I know you guys have probably heard a ton about this, but um, college basketball has gotten really, really old in the past couple of years, and that's not just true at Division One. That's true. I can tell you from games with Franklin and Marshall and Johns Hopkins and some of the schools in our league. There've been a lot of fifth year guys, even some sixth year guys running around in D3. So we have started to recruit transfers a little bit more aggressively to try to stay, competitive and make sure we're not super young every year. Um, but yeah, so that's pretty much what I'm doing. But when I'm watching you guys this summer, and I'll certainly be in the gym, when you guys are playing with Riverside Hawks here. Yeah, I don't want to give you the impression that I'm trying to break down every itty bitty piece of your game when I'm watching you play, because that's not really what it is. At a school like Haverford, you're really trying to figure out, like, all right, um, can I get the most talented kids that I can in the mix? And then once I get them on campus, kind of figure out, all right, how are we going to play? Are we going to play fast? Are we going to slow it down? Are we going to play through the post? All that good stuff. Um, how many of you, just by the show of hands and just out of curiosity, how many of you right now are thinking about, trying to find an early decision school? Okay. What I would tell you is, if and knowing the schools that you guys attend, as I do, it really is a way to kind of put yourself in the best possible position to get support from a coach. Um, because what I can tell you, having done this for a lot of years at Haverford, is the longer I go into an admissions cycle with my admissions folks, um, the 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 harder the conversations get when I'm trying to support a candidate. If I go to them in October or November and I say Del Mance really wants to be at Haverford, I really want Del Mance at Haverford. That's generally an easier conversation than if I'm trying to go to them in, January, February, when they've already filled, half of their class or more than half of their class. Um, there's more factors that come into play. Financial aid comes into play sometimes. Yeah. So I would tell you, if you can find a really good fit, if you can find a program that you're excited about, a coach that you feel like is ready to support you and coach you, and it checks all the boxes for you, I would tell you, um, my own kids, we're gonna be looking for an early decision school when they're in about 5, 6 years when they're looking at colleges. Um, but what other questions you guys have about what coaches are looking for generally? I guess I mean I could talk to you a little bit more about Haverford, if you guys are curious about the school. How many of you, just by a show of hands, have been on Haverford's campus? Anybody? Okay, so Haverford, I know we are. a liberal arts college. We're about 1,400 students. The enrollment's actually going to expand in the next couple years. So by the time you guys get to school, it'll be more like, 1,500 or even 1,550 kids. We're just a couple miles down the road from Villanova. You can get to Center City, Philadelphia from our campus in about 20 minutes on the train. And I've had kids in the program, over the past 4 or 5 years, kids from Manhattan, kids from Brooklyn who, they catch the train home for holiday breaks and stuff like that, and they can get from Philly to New York in an hour and a half. It's not a bad trip at all. When I got to Haverford, um, the starting point guard at Haverford for 12 straight years had been a graduate of Poly Prep. So the former coach, I don't know exactly what his connection was to Poly, but he essentially what he did is he just went back into the city every 4 years and he grabbed the starting point guard off Poly Prep and he brought him to Haverford. So that's who was hooping at Haverford. And we had a bunch of Poly kids. Since I've been at Haverford, we had a kid from Hunter College High School who graduated a couple years ago. He's actually a D2 transfer at the University of Bridgeport now, playing out his eligibility. We've had some other kids from Brooklyn. We had a kid named Will Hatfield from Manhattan who played at the
He was a
Browning School, I believe.
he
He
played
is
he played with Riverside, coach. We had him.
you had Will Hatfield. So Will's finishing up a he actually might be finished now. He applied and was accepted to an accelerated master's degree program through Penn. Um, which is kind of one of the cool things about Haverford and Swarthmore is as an undergrad, as a sophomore or junior, you can start taking graduate level classes at Penn in computer science or engineering. Um, and what it does is it just kind of gives you a head start so that by the time you graduate, you only have about a year of coursework left before you can get your master's, and that's what Will did. Will's one of the smartest kid. Zach, I don't have to tell you, but he's like crazy, crazy smart. Um, but so we had Will, yeah, we've had some good kids from the city. We've had, good kids from your program on campus, and I'm hopeful to get a few more. Um, but
Because I wanted to ask you about. I mean, you mentioned academic profile. One, what is the typical academic profile? And then the second one I had was, guys schedule a lot of camps with, Babson coming up and all the Ivies, but how important is, how important is your prospect camp and, how much value do you put into that?
Yeah, so to answer your first question, so Haverford's one of the schools that went test optional, coming out of the pandemic. Haverford is still test optional. Um, I would say about half of admitted students actually do submit test scores, so it's not like the SAT and ACT have gone completely out the window. Um, but we do have a handful of kids who, did apply without their test score and were admitted. The biggest thing at Haverford is, and at your schools, it's less of an issue because at a lot of your places, your college counselors are not going to let you not take the level classes you need to be a viable candidate at a place like Haverford. But really the most important thing, more important even than your class rank or straight A's or anything like that, is just the overall rigor in your curriculum. So they really look hard at like, do you have a minimum of 5 academic courses in your junior year that are highest level rigor offered at your school? So obviously, if that's Dalton, that's a pretty high level class. And I don't even know if Dalton offers APs. They might not.
Do
But
they?
they just want to see like, are you challenging yourself to the nth degree as much as you can at Dalton? And if you're at a little itty bitty public school in the middle of Missouri, that might look a lot different, like what you can do in terms of your rigor. So. And then one thing that my college, our admissions folks always ask me before they'll even do a pre-read, they want to see the classes that a candidate is registered to take in his senior year. Um, and if there's a significant dip in rigor, like if it turns into, if it goes from AP Chem to, AP Psych, and, you start leaning into stats instead of calculus, or you start leaning into human geography. I don't even know what that is, but like if you're kind of moving away from the most rigorous classes, that can really hurt you at Haverford too. But I have gotten kids in through the admissions process with lots of B's, with B minuses. We've even gotten a kid, with a C scattered somewhere in his sophomore, junior year. But as long as you're on an upward trajectory, you've got good rigor. Um, yeah, and if your school does rank and you're outside the top 10-15% of your class, that becomes a hard conversation too, because then I really have to make a strong argument why, our program really needs you. If you're outside the top, 15 or so percent. Um, your second question, Zach, was about all the camps and our camp in particular. So I'll be up at Babson next month. I hate that camp. I hate the drive. I hate the way they structure it, but there's so many good players that go up there. There's so many really smart kids. Like sometimes, honestly, I feel like I could drive up there, buy the packet from those guys, and just drive home and start watching like huddle video and stuff like that. Because I really just need to know who the really high academic kids are that want to be at schools like Haverford. Um, but what I would tell you guys is like you don't have to play at, 2 dozen camps this summer. You got to find a couple of really good camps. You got to make sure that once you play in your scholastic stuff this month and you play in the live stuff in July, that you've got, video. And the advice I like to give kids about video is instead of paying some dude $1 million to put together a highlight video for you, um, literally find your best 5 to 6 minute stretch of play uninterrupted. So no splicing, no nothing, like, and send that to coaches. And with made shots, with missed shots, with turnovers, you diving on the floor. But that is so much more helpful than like a manicured, kid makes every shot, kids, a bunch of fast break dunks. Like it just doesn't, it's not as helpful. I would much rather watch you play for a really good quarter or a really good stretch of, one or two of your games in July. So yeah, and then our camp in September, like we run a camp, and we do take it seriously, really because the kids that show up for our prospect camp, if you show up at Haverford in September on a Sunday in September, just by making that trip to campus, you're telling me and our staff like I'm pretty serious about this place. Um, so on our team right now, three of our rising sophomores. So we had a 7-man first freshman class this past year. Three of them came to our camp. The year before that, two kids came to our camp. Um, so it's whatever schools it is. Like if you get to the end of the summer and you have a short list of schools that you're really excited about and you feel like the coach is really interested in you, I would 100% advise you to go play in those camps in August and September, and try to see if you can really like fast track things. Because if a kid comes to our camp and I really like him and he really likes Haverford, like it gets super simple after that. Like I'm not trying to evaluate a kid, for months and months and months. Like I'm trying to figure out who wants to be at Haverford, who do we really want in our program. Um, and we're really trying to start to build our class, in September, if we can. So, does that answer your question about the camps, Zach?
Yeah, good. I mean, that's consistent with what I've thought and communicated as well. That yeah, if you're interested in the school, there's no better way to show that you're interested in the school than to go to that particular camp. What about where will you be in terms of like you said Babson, where will you be in July and do you go to any of the Ivies in August?
Yeah, so I'll be up at Babson. I'm actually leaving for Ireland here in a couple of days with my family, but when I get back, I'll be up at Babson. I will be, oh man, I don't even know where I'm going to be in July yet. Probably Atlantic City for a couple days. I'll almost certainly be out at Spooky for a day or two in July. Um, I may head out to the Hoop Group Academic Elite Camp at the end of July. In August, I was at Yale a couple weeks ago for their first camp. In August, I'll be at least one of the Yale camps, one or two of the Penn camps if they actually pull those off. I know they had to cancel the stuff they were doing in June, but I'll go to Penn. I may go up to Columbia. Matt Elkin's been trying to get me up there. I usually don't go as far. I don't get up into New England a ton for like the Harvard, Dartmouth camp. It's honestly just too far. Like I'm gonna see all those kids at Yale and Columbia anyway. So, um, and then I do a lot. I'll go out to Chicago for a couple of days. Mike Weinstein, I know you know Mike Zach, or I think you know Mike. He runs a good academic camp in Chicago. So I'll go out there for a day and then that'll be it. Um, but the other thing I do is, and I'm sure most coaches do this, but like I really do, like if a kid is interested enough in Haverford that he's going to send me video of games that he played in July, like I watch all that stuff, and it's a lot, but I take the time to watch because I take that very seriously as a gesture of interest. Like if you're interested enough in Haverford that you're going to send me, some games that you played with Riverside Hawks in July, like I'm going to watch, and I'm going to try to send you an evaluation and tell you. What I think of how you played, and if I think Haverford might be a good fit. Yeah, I'm happy to do that too because I think it's a lot more efficient for me than just running around, you know, this camp up at Babson. Like I'm not going to get a great evaluation of how a kid plays. Watching them play, 5 in 5 out for that craziness up there. But I can get a pretty good sense of how you play. Watching how you're playing with Riverside Hawks or with your high school team this month. So, um, but yeah, I'm trying to think of what else I would share with you guys. It could be helpful.
Anybody else? You guys got a question? We got like 4 minutes left here. Appreciate this, coach. This is very helpful, and I know the guys who aren't here will use this information too. But do you guys have any dire questions? Something that's on your mind?
I remember before you were talking about like transfer portal and going through kids with like that have been to other colleges. What do you think is the biggest difference that you just see between them and high school kids?
The biggest difference between incoming transfers and high school kids
Yeah.
oh, it's so different. The process of recruiting a young man who has already played in a college program, kind of been through the grind of a college preseason, strength and conditioning, academics. Um, it's just age and experience, and it's more out of necessity than anything else. Like I would love to recruit kids who I know that I'm going to get for 4 years and get to grow our program with those kids, whether that's at a high school or prep school. Um, Unfortunately, like the way college basketball is trending right now, that's going to be more the exception than the rule. Even at schools, if you had told me 3, 4 years ago that I would have, kids, transferring from Haverford to go to Johns Hopkins and Case Western and some of the other academic D3s, I would have told you that you're crazy. But it's the reality of kind of the world we're in right now. So, um, I think that's the biggest difference. I mean, recruiting transfers, they have a level of experience and their expectations for kind of what they want are generally different than, a kid that's never played college basketball before or been in an academic environment on a college campus. Um, But yeah, but it's interesting because a lot of our schools aren't really like Haverford as a college is not really built for transfers. Like it's not a revolving door type school where, they expect to have kids coming and going every year. Um, in a perfect world, like I was saying, like we'd have kids, 4-year kids who really want to establish themselves, academically and in terms of their basketball at Haverford. So I would love to get back to that. But right now, because we've lost some kids at transfer, that's kind of, put some pressure on me to go out into the world and get some transfers. So we have an incoming a guard who's a rising junior, played a couple years at Brandeis, joining us next year, and then we have another guard from Long Island actually, who was a walk-on at UMBC for the past couple years, and he'll be a junior with us this coming year too. So. Um, Yeah, roster building, even at the D3 level, is not what it once was. It's all I'm not giving out buckets of NIL money, I could tell you that. I don't have that. That hasn't changed much for me. But yeah. So I would say if you could find for you guys, like if you could find a fit that you're really excited about, where you really want to grow yourself, and you could see yourself being there for multiple years and really growing. I think there's so much value in that that's kind of lost right now in college basketball. I hope we get it back. I don't know that we will, but I hope that we do.
Well, we're in the last couple seconds here, Coach. We really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy guy, and I know all these guys appreciate it too. Thank you so much, Coach.
No problem. I appreciate you guys. Good luck this month. Good luck in July, and I'll see you out there.
Cool. See you soon.